I firmly believe you never should spend your time being the form or anything. Condoleezza Rice. You're listening to the Real Estate Investor Show, episode number 19th.
Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
We're excited to have Cassi DeHaas from Titanium Investments on our show today. Cassi and her partner started out as general contractors and quickly moved into various areas of investing, such as wholesaling, flipping, buy and holds, and even Airbnbs. Along with her partner, she has flipped more than 100 properties and currently owns over 90 rental units. On today's show, we discuss the importance of purchasing correctly, the number one tip when working with wholesalers, and how to invest successfully outside your local market.
Welcome back, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Hello, Cassi.
Hi. How are you ladies doing?
We're doing great. We actually just saw each other, so Andressa's probably tired of me today. But as we jump in today's episode, one of the things that Andressa and I were doing today was, we were really working on our business or working on the podcast and all the things we're up to with the investor community. And we met together in person. We don't always do that. And, just remind me today, and I'm sure, some days it's harder to do than others, but to work on our business, right? And to take that time. And if you have a partner, you have a team, and you're not always together, put it in your calendar, whether it's quarterly, whether it's monthly. And Andressa and I left today saying, we got to do this quarterly. We can't, we got to be proactive in doing that. So that's on our calendars. And, and what we're going to do is just, no one ever talks about how important that relationship is and that building of that relationship. So if you're listening to this, ladies, if you have a partner, you have a team, get those kind of working on, the relationship and the business on your calendars. Don't just wait for that stuff to happen. It won't, it's just like going to the gym. You got to put it in your calendar, or just no one's going to force you to do that. So I was just reminded of that and today, and I was just really reminded of that, how important that is. So
yeah, that's so true. And I think that for me, I'm all about how can we be very efficient doing whatever we're doing. We could have done through Zoom or with Skype call, but we decided to do in person. And there's something different when you are in person. You exchange energy, you start brainstorming things, and the result is just something that you cannot predict because the creativity is in the air. And I think that is every time that we meet in person, we produce much more, and we set goals, and we create, and we, as you were saying, we work on the business, not in it. And that fulfills my soul when we do that, because we're thinking about the bigger picture. So it's always good seeing you, though.
yes, it is. It is. And it's reminds you of that important thing about working on it, not in it. So
yeah.
Without further ado, Cassi, it is absolutely a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here today.
Yeah, we're going to get into your story. Cassi is from Dallas, and I know you're in multiple markets. We're going to get into. That's one of my. I always write down I got to ask these questions of our guests because I'm curious. So we'll get into all that. But as we like to start with our guests, and especially for the ladies listening to this, we'd love to hear women's stories. And what was your kind of compelling why as to jumping into real estate investing. So if you can share that with us, and share with the listeners, for you, what pulled you into this real estate investing business?
Okay. So it kind of happened really organically. I wouldn't say I got here because of my why, but more my why came into bloom through business. I've kind of always been I am who I am. I was made this way situation. And so, I'm a pretty versatile person. I pretty much have a drive that I have to be, if I'm going to put my mind to something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm going to succeed one way or another. Even whenever I fail, I make sure that I have a huge takeaway from that failure. And I use it to create a situation that, myself, my team, my family, my friends, somebody's going to be better for it, or I'm going to help somebody else avoid that same problem, that same mistake that I made. So really what pulled me into real estate was, I graduated from college, and I was thinking about going back to school. And, I just one day decided, I talked to my business partner, RJ, and I said, we should start our own business. And he's like looking at me, and I'm like, I've always wanted to start my own business, but I'd never even thought about, what I was going to do, how I was going to do it, yada, yada, yada. And so it was always really intimidating to me because in my mind, I was really young, and, in your early 20s, you're thinking, I'm just pulled in so many different directions. Like, what do I want to do? And I was kind of raised in the school of thought, like I had to go to college and I had to get, that typical mindset. And, I just said to him one day, I said, we should start our own business. Let's just figure out what we're going to do. And his parents were entrepreneurs. They own their own office furniture business. And, so he was all about that. He's been talking about owning his own business since he was very young. And, at the time we had a bunch of business ideas, and we got pulled into real estate just by basically working in contracting to try to condense the story down a little bit. We were consulting with general contractors because of his best friend's company, and we started our own contracting company to condense that story down. When we were contractors, I've always had a huge passion for design. I'm an artist, and I've been obsessed with it since I was a young kid. My stepdad, he on the side helped build houses with his cousin who's a builder growing up, and he would take me by these houses, and I've always been obsessed with it. Like, he would show me the work that he's done, and I would, as a little kid, I was in awe. I've just always had this, love for this sort of thing. It's just kind of ingrained in me through, my family and being in awe of him. And he's somebody that I really look up to. And so I just, we really expanded our contracting business based on my love for design. We started doing these really amazing projects. We got in with a bunch of investors, and we were like, hold up, we have such a huge passion for business. Like, what are we doing, just doing this? Like, the sky is the limit for us. And, we're both made that way. We're both made exactly that way. Like, there's nothing that can stop us but us. And let's do this. Let's figure this out, and it's always pulled. I have like such a passion for real estate for so many reasons. Like, it just meets every criteria. We wear so many hats in our business that sometimes, like, I forget that that's what I'm addicted to about it. I love it because it hits all the sides of my versatility and my passion and stuff like that. And it opens so many doors to so many other things that I'm passionate about that are not real estate related. I'm able to integrate them, into my business and my, for my team and everything like that. Like, I'm a huge, I have a huge heart for people. Like, I'm like a humanitarian kind of person. Like, I have this huge empathetic heart, and I just, I want to do so many good things for so many people. And, I feel like that's my true calling in life. No matter how passionate I am about business or real estate or art, or I love to read or whatever I love the arts, it's what can I do through the things that I love with my time on this earth. And so I love that about real estate. It's just, I love business. I love every aspect of it. So that's kind of what has brought us here, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I love your perception about the integration, because sometimes people think about real estate just like houses, and that's much more. It's totally much more than that. I think it's a much broader business, and has to do with it's attached to houses, but it's much bigger than that. You just mentioned about the lessons that you learned throughout your deals. Walk through the first deal that you guys did. What was the lesson? The first ones are always the best.
Oh, the best lesson.
Right.
No,
So
we call them
basically,
the
tell your
best.
weird story. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad of a story. So we were very lucky because we were general contractors, and RJ, his personality is not for the tedious tasks of life. He is like, I mean, he'll power through them when they're necessary, but he did not enjoy the tedious aspects of contracting. And so, I did handle a good deal of that business. And, so we were very fortunate to have that experience for us. So our first deal was not bad. Now, what I will tell you is, looking back, everybody can tell you 100,000 times, but until you experience it, it's all about, purchasing correctly. And we did not purchase that house correctly, but we were able to cover our behinds essentially just because we were GCs, and anybody else that didn't have that experience would have lost money, but it was a fairly simple, we did play kind of safe. We bought in one of the lower price points. I think we bought it for gosh, it's been so long, and I'm terrible at remembering these numbers. I think we bought it for like 65. We put 25 into it, and we sold it for 110. So I mean, but when once we had the costs and everything lined out, we actually purchased it from a big box wholesaler, which we didn't even really know what that was at the time. Man, now, with everything that I have under my belt, I look back and I'm like, whoa, doggy. Oh, that was so Texas of me, y'all.
I love it. I love it.
And yeah, I really wish, it gives me the motivation for somebody getting started to be like able to say, here's what we went through. Here's why I wouldn't do this, because a lot of people wouldn't have pulled that deal out of the hat, like they would have been like, ooh, and so many people will try to get into this, after the first couple deals, because they don't have this component, or this component lined out, they're not going to have room for a lot of error. It wasn't the best purchase, it was not the best a deal in the world, but we were still able to, profit off of it. And, a lot of people don't do that when they have very little knowledge, or they're buying from a wholesaler that has the wrong ARV, the wrong rehab budget, because
Really?
Yeah.
Wholesalers have the wrong ARV.
Yeah. And we wholesale, so I'm not saying a bad name for wholesalers, but you have to, just like everything else, you have to be working with the right people that are, anything else in business, you've got to trust but verify that,
100%.
So.
Yeah, we work with wholesalers here, and if they come to me with a different rehab price, well, let's talk about it. But it's my responsibility to do my due diligence. It's
Absolutely.
not their fault if I don't make a profit. It's all on me. My success is on me. My failure is on me too. So that's how we run.
Yeah, that's that I tell people that all the time. Even like we wholesale them. And I'll tell people, hey, I'm not going to put something in front of you with numbers that I wouldn't buy it at. I'm not going to do that. And if I do, it's because there was an error somewhere in there. Everybody's fallible,
Yeah.
And we will address it. For me, it's all about being realistic. If we're wholesaling a property, it's because, maybe we're spread too thin, and we just, we just push it down to the wholesale team. But, it's not going to come across your desk with numbers that I wouldn't buy it at. And, if we miss something like, an electrical panel, well, I understand that. That's realistic, that's going to make your rehab number different than mine. But all in all, like, I think I get the most problems with, people, and no matter who it is, I tell people, trust but verify, even if you're buying from me as a wholesaler,
That's
like,
right.
you know what your numbers are with your contractors, with your suppliers, vendors, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Your holding costs. I don't know what your holding costs are. So I need you to make sure the numbers are actually going to work for you, because everybody, I mean, even people, if you take into consideration the pace at which they can get a job done, that can make a profit difference. It isn't on your wholesaler, and that's the best advice you can give to anybody. And I say that to just about anybody that I'm going to wholesale a deal to. Like, these are numbers that work for me. Now, you should never run into anything that makes it so unaffordable that you can't do it, even if you're taking out a hard money loan. But at the same time, mistakes do happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cassie, I love what you said about purchasing correctly. I'd love to dive into that a little bit more. I think one of the biggest areas that all investors, not, I won't say struggle, but they need to continually sharpen that skill is purchasing correctly. And I think the biggest, thing that people don't realize is that you make your money when you buy, not when you sell, right? So, we're all in this game for a while. We kind of know that, but a lot of new investors or less experienced investors may not always get that. So, especially in this market, right? It's a very, very hot market. Things are more money than maybe they were a few years ago, even. So, for you, and you're also in multiple markets, which definitely is an area we want to explore. What does that look like in terms of getting specific around purchasing correctly? So what does that mean? What does that really look like?
So we break our numbers down just like everybody else. There's no secret to it. But I think it's, one of the biggest problems that people make is they just, they want to put a blanket over it. They want to put blanket numbers on it. Yeah, we run the numbers the same way. But, we also have our experience. We also know how important a good contractor is with genuine numbers that aren't going to rack you up with change orders, that aren't going to, take, 3 times as long to finish the job. Yeah, there's all these factors. So when I say purchasing correctly, it's about, you run the numbers. Okay, everybody can sit there and say, well, I can buy this house in this market at 70% of the ARV, and then everybody knows that. Or I can buy this as a rental 80% of the ARV. Well, that doesn't cover every property. Every property is unique. Every rehab is going to be unique. A lot of people will sit there and turn down deals that you have to deviate from that because they just want to do volume, and that's fine. That's what works for them. We don't do the same deal every time. We aren't going to turn down a deal because it's a little bit different. We're very confident in, our ability to assess, across the board what our numbers are going to be. So what it looks like for me in purchasing correctly is you're putting together, you're painting a picture, you're building a bridge start to finish of what this property is going to cost you. You're including, so many people will say, oh, I'm going to buy it 70% of the ARV minus repairs. Yeah, I mean, that's a good starting point for how much you're going to dig into this property, or if you're working with a seller and they're saying, well, I really want, $10,000 more for this house. And I just don't know that I'm willing to, don't budge. Your numbers are your numbers. You can make the house work at this for this. You have to be considerate of anything like a contingency. If you're doing certain parts of a rehab, if you're knocking down a wall, if you're, whatever it might be. Down here in Texas, a lot of people, we have foundation issues. We have to make foundation repairs. It's like purchase correctly by knowing how much that foundation get a foundation person out there. It's not that hard. You can there's 150 of them within a square mile. Or maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's about not just rushing into pleasing a seller just so you can have a deal. It's having the patience and knowing where you're going to stand and what it's going to cost you to fund it, what it's going to cost you to make the project happen. You've got to put your holding costs, your closing costs, consider your utilities, So
Absolutely.
that's what I mean in purchasing correctly, because that number that you buy it at means everything in the end, you know. So you, I mean, you if you don't purchase it at the right price, or if you pay that $10,000 extra, going back to my example, you're in a bad spot if, your rehab ends up being $10,000 more because your foundation costs more than you anticipated that it
Yep.
would,
Yeah, you're always balancing, you're bringing up some great points. Like you're always balancing, I'm thinking about the rehabs that we're doing right now. You're always balancing time, you're always balancing costs, you have to be mindful of underestimating, so and especially experienced investors who are moving into larger multifamily. I mean, you've done so many different things. When you get into something new, you can use the previous skills, and that's great, but it's also important to, like you're mentioning, if it's something different or new, you're going to underestimate at times. So be mindful of that and just put a contingency factor in there,
Yes,
because,
absolutely. Or at least run it by, somebody in your
yeah.
network. And that's a beautiful thing that I love about real estate is, getting into multifamily and going back to that example for you, it's that I have some, I say we have incredible connections through our network, through doing things like the podcast, or being that we're in different markets nationwide. We have some killer people, that we've become, very attached to, as business colleagues, or we consider them friends, and it's amazing because when you give, other people give back to you. And so anytime we experience something that we haven't experienced before, and this has stood the test of time in our business, having those good relationships is crucial, because somebody may have done this 100 times already. This may be the first time you've faced it, but hey, I'm going to run it by them because I know they've run into this. So yeah, having that contingency and having somebody to bounce it off of, I'm going to bounce this off of them. And which goes back to, kind of what you were saying earlier about getting to meet in person, as your partnership, actually being in person. I see RJ, at least 5 days a week. And there's so many times where I do that to him. I'm like, hey, we need to go away from everybody else in the office, and we need to have one-on-one, conversation. We need to, just bust through this, just because bouncing things off of each other, it makes such a huge difference. It does give you like that brainstorming session where, the creativity, or like, we think differently, even though we're a lot alike. Everybody has their differences, and you're partners with that person for a reason, and getting to just take the time out, like is very vital, for not just the relationship, but for the business, period,
Yeah, I think that you're making such a great point about the reaching out and leaning into other people. A lot of the ladies that are listening to us, sometimes you just try to figure out on your own.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Especially us ladies.
right? Let me show you. I can't figure this out.
Yep.
And then you come to the conclusion, and then you get to the game, and you start realizing that nobody does that. That's not how the game is played.
You can use so much, and that's so funny that you say that, because I played sports, and I always, my dad, I'm his only daughter. I'm his only child, and I'm a daughter, and he wanted to be like, raise me to be independent. He wanted to raise me to be able to take care of things and not have to rely on anybody. If I was stuck in a situation, I'm going to know how to change a tire. I'm going to know how to, et cetera, et cetera. And so I did, when I was young and we were first going into business, and not that I'm not still young. When we were first in business, I had a younger mentality. Like I was like, I'm going to Rosie the Riveter my way through everything. You're right. We do tend to be like, oh no, I'm going to prove everything to the world, and like, it's so funny to me because looking back on that now, I sit here and I'm like, it's one of the things that we do in our business that is so it's just been a beautiful expansion. It's allowed us to scale so many different areas of our business up, in that we are like, I love the fact that I don't have to do everything myself. I don't have to power through. Like, I can rely on other people. Like, I've always been a question asker. I'm always the person.
Mm-hmm.
I have no fear about asking a question, even if I'm going to sound like, ignorant. I don't mind. Like, if
Who
I see a
cares?
question in my mind, I grew up before Google was a thing, for a good part of my life. So, I ask a lot of Google questions now, but, no, I don't have any shame in that. Whereas
Right.
before, I used to think, I had to know it all. I had to be able to do everything. I had to know everything. I don't feel that way now. Like, I'm super grateful, because, I have a lot to give too. And I know
Yeah.
there's going to be people that I have a lot to give to. And I know that those people will give a lot to me too, and it really kind of makes the world go around, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I don't see how, that's not a long-standing mentality in business, that you don't need other people. That's a very lonely life.
Right. And I think especially if you're going to invest in different states,
Oh yeah.
you've got to rely on other people. You've got to meet them and ask 100 trillion questions
You've got to
about
really
their market.
You've got to really form a good relationship with, whoever you have in other markets. I mean, we not even just other markets that we work in. We have private money investors that we work with that, are in other states, and it's just, relationships are so important. No matter, in every aspect of our business, everything that we do, everything that I do outside of business, knowing, how to communicate and have a good relationship and build a good relationship and be, open and vulnerable and real with people and build something with them. That is the most important thing that you can do in business. I mean, a lot of people will sit there and say, take action. Taking action is insanely important. There's probably 500 things that I can name that are the most important thing in business, but it really is. It's relationships. I mean, it makes everything. We've been able to expand a ton in our business just because of strategic partnerships. We've been able to do things where otherwise, it would have taken us a lot longer to just do them by ourselves from Fort Worth, Texas, which I will make that correction, because here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Fort Worth and Dallas are totally different places. And so I'm definitely from Fort Worth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, don't be. Most people would never differentiate between that unless they're from here. But everybody from here would be like, "Oh, you said you were from Dallas, huh?" I thought you were from-"
Cassie, you're bringing up a great point about building relationships. I think there's books on it. I mean, there's literally podcasts that are dedicated to this topic. And I'm curious. So I want to get a little more specific around this, because I think some people are naturally good at this. I think they don't think about it. They just know what to do. It's in their blood, right? It's in their personality. It's in their behavior, right? We can go down that path. But, in terms of investing in multiple markets, right? So you are in different states, even in Hawaii, which I love. We got to get some work going on in Hawaii. So
I'll work for free there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Put that on all of us. But
our boots on the ground.
Oh, yes.
so walk me through the first, like, out of your kind of local market deal that you did. Was it a rental Was it a rental deal? Was it a flip? What kind of deal was it? And then beyond what kind of deal it was, what type of relationships did you have in place to kind of make it work? And just, I'm curious to just get a little more into that, because I think that's a big area that we all want to get to. There's markets we all want to like get into. And then for me personally, I'm like, ooh, we don't have a team there yet, and then I'm like, okay, we can't invest there. So you clearly moved beyond that and you're doing it really well. So what did you do? What was that first market that you got into that was outside your area? And then also, like, just walk us through that process and the kind of relationships you had to have in place to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think we were recording yet. Texas is a really big state. So, for us, It was a matter of, well, why aren't we utilizing all of the major Texas markets? We have, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth area. I mean, those are all huge markets, huge cities. And so you have a lot of outlying, places and places in between. So it was like just a matter of, okay, most of them are like about between 4 and 5 hour drive, which actually it's not that bad. And so for us, we decided to structure it as thus. Being that we wholesale, we have rental properties, we fix and flip, we, are now getting into multifamily and all these other things. We have a digital marketing company. We're madness. We want to do it all. But we decided to test the market by wholesaling. So we went out of our area first to test the market through wholesaling. So how we did this is, fortunately for us, it was possible to test this, this theory, I guess, if you will, or doing this out by reaching out to contacts that we had in these other markets, because it's a little bit more plausible than, say, us going to Arizona. We don't have different laws, but they're completely separate markets that are big enough to sustain it. We have the exact same laws. So a lot of people, they will network with a lot of other people out of these other cities. So for us, setting up a team was not hard. For us to wholesale, we have always taken it a step further. It goes back to that GC mindset. Like, I want to have an accurate rehab bid. So we just made relationships with really good contractors there. We made relationships with really good agents there, so that we would know, hey, we would talk to, sorry, I just got off track, but they would know the market. They would know, hey, this neighborhood, this is different across the street or 2 blocks away or whatever. And that they would be able to, have access for us, and set up that access. And so we created just like we would in Dallas Fort Worth, we created the ability for everybody to win out of it. The contractors get the jobs, the agents get the listings, they love working with us for this reason or that reason. And, a lot of people say that kind of stuff, but we actually power through and we let them know, like, you're on our team. Like, we will do everything that we can in our power to make sure that, this goes through. And so we were fortunate to have, a nationwide buyers list. So it was not difficult for us, as long as we made sure that the numbers were accurate. As far as the ARV went and the contractor's bid went, it was not a problem for us to sell either. We would talk to different people as well. So our title company was able to do work out of all those markets as well, send a notary. So title is super important for us. Our escrow officer is amazing. And so she could close those deals for us. So that wasn't a factor. And then we were able to just talk to different, other people in the markets, be it an attorney or other wholesalers or fix and flippers or that were local to those markets, or hard money lenders. We've got a really great hard money lender that, will do all the major Texas markets. So they know, so we, again, by connecting with other people and building that relationship is really how we were able to test that theory, where we didn't have to have like a fully functioning team. Like, we had our home base and we could do all of the components virtually. We could do virtual wholesaling because we had this, and all that did was give us our start to just replicate it and move into where we're virtually flipping. We're not just virtually wholesaling, we're virtually flipping. And then we would just kind of replicate that and figure out, how are the laws different? We still need to make the same relationships in any other state. Hawaii is a little bit different. So we're very fortunate in Hawaii because I mentioned a while ago that we started consulting, and it was with RJ's childhood best friend's company that we were doing that work, and we very soon thereafter started our own contracting business. Well, he and his family, after a couple of years, moved there. They moved to Hawaii. So he is, he is in contracting himself in Hawaii. He's not doing consulting anymore. We weren't doing consulting anymore. They moved to Hawaii, and he opened his roofing company there. There was a lot of opportunity for him. He's killed it over there. And, the whole way, he's like, oh, I love what you guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing. And he and RJ just, they start getting in there and their wheels are turning. And he's like, we got to open up. You got to teach me. And we've got to open up in Hawaii. And after a while, long story short, we did. And it's been incredible because, his business mind is so strong. He has the ability to do the contracting work. And so we are able to keep so much of it in-house in that market. And he's absolutely wonderful and brilliant. So, Hawaii, we're extra lucky because it is all in-house there. Whereas, in some of these other markets where we may virtually flip or virtually wholesale, it's not going to be all in-house, but through relationships. But no matter what it is, we're able to do all of the things across all the places because of good relationships. So,
wow. In Hawaii, what type of property you guys have there? Rentals or
both? We fix and flip in. Yeah. It's a newer company, but we do have fix and flips going on, and we have a handful of rentals. In fact, we closed on one, so I don't know how long you guys wait to actually post this podcast, but there is a volcano erupting in Hawaii. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
And we bought, that happened, I think, Friday, and we closed on a house on Volcano Road, 5 miles away on Friday. So we're having a little bit of a panic attack on Friday. So we're like, we just closed on a house like right there on the Big Island today. And so we're like,
wow.
Oh, fingers crossed.
No, it's doing good. We're 5 miles away, and we're not in the line of the flow so far.
Well, that's good.
We're just gonna keep praying about it, though.
Always.
Cassie, I love the term virtual flipping and virtual wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
For the listener, for the woman that's listening that has done local flipping and they've had success with it, right? It's been within less than an hour away, right? They've either had a GC, they've done it themselves, they contracted it themselves, they've had success with flipping locally. What is their first relationship if they want to start, or what's their first step if they want to start getting, expanding their local, beyond their local market? What do you think might be their first step or their first relationship that they want to get in order, they want to secure to start moving in that direction? What would you say?
I would say there's a couple different ways to answer that, so I'll try to answer it both ways in a short amount of time. But I would say that it's really going to depend on, it's going to be catered to their personality, honestly. It's going to be catered to how they have their business structured. See, it looks like for us, we immediately went to contractors. We immediately went to realtors. Those are our first two steps. But for somebody else, it might be, it depends on how they get their deals. Are they dropping, how are they doing their marketing? How are they acquiring the property? So I would say the most important thing is, cater to prioritize, like, what is the biggest priority in your business? Is it an acquisitions person? Like, maybe that's what's best for your business. Maybe you really need to, post a job listing, for an acquisitions person, like it's just really how your business is structured. For us, we were able to do acquisitions virtually, from our home base. So that was not a problem for us. But, you've got to have somebody to go on an appointment, right? So in order to do it, if you can't be there all the time, yeah, you got to be willing to travel. I mean, the traveling's the fun part for me. But, you can't be at every appointment. So are you really good at closing? Who closes your deals? Who is your acquisitions person? Are you really good at closing a deal on a phone? I'm not. I am not good at that. RJ's
Yeah.
really good at it. I'm not good at it. I'm a face-to-face kind of gal. And
Yeah,
so go ahead.
I was just saying, I love what you're saying. And I think that for folks listening to this and that are having success locally, assess what you're doing today. I love
Yeah.
that, what you're saying, and assess like your process today and how are you getting your deals and who's closing them. And that your questions are great, Cassie, because in essence, you're developing your success kind of map, right? And if you've had
Absolutely.
success locally, what does that look like?
Yep.
You know, really analyze it, and that will propel you to figure out what pieces you're bringing to the table or be missing from. I love that approach, because so many times we just jump into something versus really assessing and analyzing what's working,
Right.
and maybe what's not working. Right. So.
Right. Maybe there is no process, and that's what it needs to be in place where you are at in order for you to scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we have like I look at some of my colleagues' businesses, and I'm like, there's sometimes like we're just so hard on ourselves. So like we're constantly so hard on ourselves, and I'll look at their business, I'm like, man, they're really good at that. Like, why aren't we that good at that? Like, why aren't we better at that? And it's like, it's just like everything else. You have your strengths and your weaknesses. You have things you've got to work on, and I think such a huge part of our success is being able to identify those things. And I think that it's also like, because we are adamant on, powering through them and implementing solutions in our business for those reasons, And so like, that's why, hopping back to that, going virtual for us was simple, because we were just replicating what we do. We're just going to replicate what we do. The first thing that we've got to do to replicate what we do is our map, with wholesaler, we have to wholesale there. So what do we do that's unique that our clients love as we're wholesaling, and you break it down. You just break down what you need to do, your success map, write down your 7 goals, whatever it is. And you say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is my goal. And this is how I'm going to achieve it, because this is how I achieved it over here. Or I'm going to add this in because this is where I want to be more successful. Whatever it may be. We all have access to, the same back office systems, the same CRMs, or the same, management softwares, or, It's just, how are you going to coach your people and train your people and your team? And you don't have to have all of it in place, all at once in order to start. It took us a long time to actually get Hawaii rolling off the ground. Before we really started doing it, as at a higher level, we slow rolled that for like a year and a half, just like one little one little tiny step at a time, because that's what worked for us. Elijah had his own business. RJ and I were over here in the mainland just doing our thing, plugging away. Just because everything's not in place overnight doesn't mean that you can't take those steps and work that map out, So that's what I would say. Just, cater to what works for you, and know, what you're successful at, and start there, take action there. You can adjust later. You're always going to adjust. You always have to be able to adjust. So
Totally.
Yeah.
So shifting gears, we always talk about wearing different hats and
So do I.
getting together and balancing it all. So for you, how does that look like?
Well, I would say being a versatile person, virtual. I said virtual too many times. Being a very versatile person. I love it. So that's the first factor. Like if you don't like love that aspect, then you've got to make sure you are laser focused on the thing that you love, So balancing it is fun for me, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, there are times where I feel like, ooh, I'm out of balance. And, so what it looks like for me in handling all of that is it just boils down to priorities. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I'm very fortunate. I have the best business partner on the planet. Sorry, ladies. But I really do. He is man, he's a freight train. Like he's the best. So I have some built-in balance there. He balances me out in so many ways in business. And like we were able to play off of that balance when something gets out of whack for us as individuals. And so that's really important. And then it's just about prioritizing. It's like knowing what you need, knowing what your needs are, making sure that you take the time to prioritize what you need to do in any given business day, and making sure that you take the time to work out how you're going to map it out. How are you going to do it? And what you can't, because we'll never be able to get it all done. You'll never not have a to-do list, so like I'm like the to-do list queen. It used to drive RJ crazy. But I also just like, I lean on my team. I lean on other people, and being able to, I've always been the kind of person, this was a challenge for me. It was no easy feat getting here. It was a challenge for me because I was very much going back to that, Rosie the Riveter kind of mentality. I have a hard time asking for help. I really do. And my cousin got me this little plaque that says, "I'm not bossy, I'm just the boss." And I'm like, I'm not even a bossy person at heart, but because I have a hard time asking for help, sometimes I come across as bossy because I'm like, I need you to do this. Like, it's not like, will you please? I'm just so bad about it. Like, I don't like asking for help. I always want to, I don't like troubling people or whatever. So, I've just grown through that, and that's what helps keep me balanced. My partner, my team, and prioritizing it's so important. It's so important in keeping a balance, and then the fact that I just absolutely love what I do. I have huge passion for it. So,
Cassie, what's next on the horizon for you guys? I know you're up to some really neat stuff that you and I, chatted with on the phone. So what's next for you, especially you and your partner? You've been involved with so many different aspects of real estate investing, which I think really important to note because you have experience in so many different things. So what's coming up for you guys in terms of your focus?
So what's really, I can say, we're right now, we are preparing our business in a way so that we are able for everybody underneath us to scale up to where, we are in the different aspects of the business, and we're able to put more time and focus into, the following things. For example, we started our own nonprofit, Beat Kids Cancer. That is really important to us.
It's wonderful.
And in the distant future, charity work is going to be, half of my retirement because I'll never be able to retire. So charity work is really important to both of us. Our nonprofit is huge for us, and y'all can go at some point in time and look at the reasons behind that and the story behind that. The other thing for us is multifamily is in the very, very, very near future for as far as being a huge focus for us. We also are doing some mentoring coaching, so I will categorize that as education. We're not prepared to roll anything out, but we'll just lump sum that into a category of education. And the last thing is we are, as we spoke about, Liz, mastermind events, things like that, really creating something networking wise that we believe in as much as we believe in everything else that we do, is super important. And that is challenging in Dallas-Fort Worth in a way, because there's so many options here. And there's a couple of people that do it really, 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 really well. But, we've tasked ourselves and challenged ourselves to create something, that we would want, in the beginning, and doing, we're involved in some of these groups. They're incredible. And it's not to take anything away from them. We've got some incredible people here, but, there's other value that I don't see out there. Things I don't see people doing that are really important to me. As we discussed, I want to have, a women's, only kind of meetup group. I wouldn't even call it a mastermind almost. I really, 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 really think that it is, vital to take the opportunity to connect with other high level women, because I just don't see a lot of connection. And when you get into like these large groups, or if there's just like a lot of, other, if there's a lot of men involved, it's just that it's not that that's bad. I have so many men that I respect and I look up to and that just inspire me every day. My business partner is one of them. He inspires me every day, and I cherish that. But I think it's just such a different dynamic when you do get in a group of women, and different walls come down, and you're able to be vulnerable in a different way that is, I think, valuable. And I don't see a lot of that. And so that's important to me, and, like I was saying, I love the charity work. I've been talking about, like, for a year now, since last summer. I was like, next summer, I'm going to have an intern, and, she's going to be going off to college after she, is with me. And I'm like, what do I want to do with that? And, like, I just want to create. I didn't have a lot of women outside of my family and my church that, and this is not to take any credit away from the women in my family and my church growing up, but I didn't have anyone like me. And that sounds really egotistical. The women in my family have always encouraged me to be strong and independent, and I can do anything, right? It's not to take away from them. My mom was like almost obsessed with making sure I was able to create a life for myself that, was incredible and everything that I wanted. But everybody that I dealt with, they were not of an entrepreneurial mindset. They were a very, I don't know the best way to say this. They were very typical mindset. You go to school, you go and you do this, and there's just so much more out there when you get into the real world. And then I look around my world, and it's really, I'm able to identify, and it's not for everybody, but I'm able to identify with these other high level women, be it in real estate investing or otherwise, that, really see, the world. And I didn't have anybody encouraging me of those things really, or how to, or that I could say, well, I'm going to look and see, how did they create this for themselves? Or, how did they create that? And, I had very respectable women in my life, and, I just really want to create something like that, whether it's like a summer workshop for like teenage girls, whatever it might be. I think that it's just so important for us as women to put that out there. We don't have to fit into a box that people make for us, like, and I think, timeline wise, I was just reading this thing about Jane Addams, and that was the thing for her. Like, she made that connection to where, like, before, women's rights came along, she was able to connect the pieces. Like, well, this is what women do in the home versus this is what women should be doing in government and society. And like, I think, that wasn't that long ago. That was in like the 30s, I think. The 30s, I think. And like, that wasn't that long ago timeline wise. And it's not to say, like, obviously we're not oppressed. It's 2018, but, I don't know. At least I've never experienced, in my opinion, enough of, a network of, just powerful high level women in everyday life, because that's what I look for. I can look on, inspirational, I can look at inspiring stories or inspiring women across the board, throughout history. And, but where is that inspiration in everyday life,
Yeah.
And I'd like to have a venue for that. That would be incredible.
Yeah, I love that, Cassie. And you were, I feel like you were in our conversation earlier today, right?
Were you there?
I know. I feel like you were there.
I was a fly on the
Seriously,
wall.
I feel like you were like sitting right next to me and talking to us because I mean, I love the focuses you have, and we'll be talking a lot more about all the things we're doing here with the investor community because I think you could add be a great resource, and as we kind of develop all that. But in terms of your where people can learn more about what you're up to. I mean, obviously you got some great things you're offering in terms of mentoring and coaching, and you're doing well in this business when people start to say, what do they come to you for that, and I think that's such a great sign that you're up to some great things. So
yeah, it's such a compliment, right?
yeah, it's a huge compliment.
I'm honored. Like I hope that I can
help you in some way.
Yeah.
So where can people learn more about the things you're up to, Cassie, and all the
oh my goodness,
of your
we have
business?
so many
With so many websites. What's the main one?
Just Google titanium anything. So Facebook is really is a good networking tool for us. It's probably the best way to reach us if you're not going to email us or reach out to us directly by phone, but you can also reach out to us directly on Facebook. So Titanium Investments, Titanium Realty, Titanium Investments of Hawaii, Beat Kids Cancer, and we got all kinds of stuff on there. So,
Awesome.
They can see more of what we're up to. They can see our various websites there, or Instagram or Twitter or, individual contact information. So Facebook's probably the easiest way to reach out to us, Titanium Investments. So.
Awesome. All of those will be under our show notes. So you guys can go there and all the links, all the good stuff is going to be there for you guys. Now we're going to our fabulous 3 questions. Cassie, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's get it.
Yes, we need some music like do-do-do-do, like we need
something like that. Yes. So the first one will be, what's the most transformational book you have ever read?
Okay, this is so hard for me because I love to read. So I'm going to go with one that just I am actually currently reading. And I think that it is, it's so good because it's so simple and it's like a healthy reminder. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, I think is his last name. And it's basically just about setting yourself up at the beginning of every day. Setting yourself up at the beginning of every day. And I know that that's just such a simple thing, but that goes back to that's what makes the machine go. That's the water in the wheel, that is it's everything, having, everybody can say, like I said, there's 500 things I could probably say are the most important things, but it's a great book. But I could also say the Harry Potter series because I just love it so much.
There we go.
But no, I like that book, and I think it plays into what you guys are doing and what you're centered around. I think it's super important to balance, and is that book. So
Awesome.
I agree with it, but it's good content for sure.
Great. Awesome. The second question is, what's the most powerful routine you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
Creating passive income. Just constantly being open to those opportunities, and strategically partnering with people whenever we can and to create additional forms of passive income. If you listen to it, I guess it's not necessarily a routine. It's just an action that we take. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's a routine. Other than that, man, I would say the podcast, as a second answer to that, if that doesn't actually answer the question you asked. Podcast is routine. That's on schedule. That's on there's no deviating. It gets posted at the same time. Man, that podcast has done, and I don't even do it, so that doesn't count either, I guess. But that's I do it from the background. I tell people I'm the producer.
Exactly. You were in it.
Yeah, but passive income, man, to me, to create, freedom and balance, it's just a constant, a constant thing that is at the forefront of our focus. And, it's created the ability for us to do so many other things and create a life that we're striving. But, we never stop. there's always a way to get more, get better, and get where we want to go. And if it's not for us, it's for somebody around us,
Yes, totally. And the third and last question is, which women, famous or non, has inspired you the most?
Oh gosh. Like, man, this is so hard. I have like an old school answer and like a new school answer.
Oh, cool.
I can never just pick one. I'm so indecisive. This is why I need to read that book every day. I love Ellen. I know that sounds so crazy, but I love Ellen. And that's because she just appeals to that humanitarian in me. She's so, like, because she's modern, she's like living in this every day. And I don't even get to watch her every day, but man, that woman, she is actually just truly inspiring as a person. Like, inspires you to just be good and happy and love
kind to
people
each other.
Yes, be kind to each other and love people and accept people and help people. And I love that, like, I love what she has done with her career. And for the same reason, like, I could name off not 25. I don't even think there's 25 women Nobel Peace Prize winners, but I find inspiration in so many things. Like Frida, I love Frida, like, I think like her what she did, after she had an accident, it's so incredible. And like, but that's part of her story is inspiring to me. And then, like Mother Teresa, who doesn't love that? Who doesn't
right?
love her? Who
you can't beat that.
You can't beat that. But no, like, I always just try to, like, honestly, I just try to keep, I try to be inspired by different people's stories and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good ones out there, women wise, but I always try to be inspired by who I'm going to be tomorrow. Like, that is like my truth. Like, that is like the number one woman that I aspire to be inspired by, because then I know I'm always on my tail, like, I'm always like right there pushing myself to achieve what I want to achieve in this life. So there's a lot of inspiring women. I can't just pick one.
That's cool.
Cut out the ones that aren't just keep the best answer.
Cassie, that was wonderful. We really, it's funny when you say about inspiring, that when Andres and I were going back and forth about, starting this podcast, we said, why we went with a podcast is that we wanted to be inspired and we wanted to inspire.
Yes.
That was literally the purpose of us launching this podcast. Yeah. And we said a podcast would do both. We get a chance to interview some amazing, amazing women, and we'd be able to help other women. Like, that's, to us, that was the reason. So I love that you said that. It just reminded me of our purpose and why we're doing all of this. So
yes, ma'am. That's what I love about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and your story is amazing. I love that you started a nonprofit. You're up to some, just wonderful things. So we're looking forward to doing more with you. And I am sure the women listening got a ton from this. So thank you for being on. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on and being real, authentic, and just really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate what you guys are doing so much. Like, it's incredible. I love it, and it's like you said, there's so much value being given in what you do, but I love it too because it keeps you sharp, Yeah. And then that's what we're all in this to, have that relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate y'all having me on, and it's so hard to fit everything into a small interview, but
we can always meet in Hawaii.
That's right. Or for your listeners, they can reach out. I'm always open to answering any questions. Whether it be about wholesaling or virtual wholesaling or flipping or anything like that. Feel free to reach out to us. We're absolutely all about sharing. So
awesome! Thank you so much, Cassie. It was a pleasure.
Thanks again,
for
Cassie.
Having me, ladies.
All right, bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.